Ethan Cole stood frozen in his doorway, staring at the woman who wasn't supposed to exist outside magazine covers and business headlines. Victoria Hale, the CEO everyone said stole millions, was standing at his gate in the middle of nowhere, soaking wet, mascara streaking down her face. Behind her, headlights disappeared down the dirt road. She had one suitcase and eyes that looked like they'd already died once tonight. "I know you don't know me," she said, voice cracking, "but I'm out of places to run." He should have slammed the door, should have called someone. Instead, he opened the gate. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, hit that like button and drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. Now, let's begin. The farmhouse smelled like burnt coffee and old wood. Ethan hadn't expected company in 3 years, not since Rachel died. And the place showed it. Newspapers stacked by the couch, his daughter's toys scattered across the floor like landmines, a sink full of dishes he'd been meaning to wash for 2 days. Victoria Hale stood in his living room looking like she'd walked off a different planet. Even drenched and desperate, she had that polish, the kind that came from boardrooms and five-star hotels. Her coat probably cost more than his truck. "You can sit," Ethan said, gesturing to the couch. She didn't move, just stood there, dripping onto his floor, arms wrapped around herself like she was holding her ribs together. "I don't have much," he added, "but I can make tea," or, "Why did you let me in?" The question landed hard. Ethan looked at her, really looked. She wasn't just wet. She was shaking, not from cold, from something deeper. "Because you asked," he said simply. She laughed, but it came out broken. "You know who I am?" "Yeah." "You know what they're saying I did." "I know what they're saying." Her eyes narrowed. "That's not an answer." Ethan crossed his arms, leaning against the doorframe. "You want the truth? I don't know you. Don't know if you stole anything. Don't know if you're dangerous or desperate or both." He paused. "But you knocked on my door in the middle of the night, alone, and you look like you've been through hell. So I'm giving you a chair and some tea before I decide anything else." She stared at him for a long moment, then slowly lowered herself onto the couch. Her hands were still shaking. Ethan went to the kitchen, filled the kettle, set it on the stove. When he came back, she was staring at the photo on the mantel. Him, Rachel, and their daughter Emma at some carnival 2 summers before the cancer. "Your wife?" Victoria asked quietly. "Was. I'm sorry." He didn't respond. Sorry didn't fix anything. He'd heard it 1,000 times and it still didn't bring her back. The kettle whistled. He poured 2 mugs, brought them over. She took hers with both hands, like she needed the warmth more than the drink. "So," Ethan said, sitting in the chair across from her. "You going to tell me what happened, or are we just going to sit here until morning?" Victoria took a sip, winced at the heat. "You really want to know?" "You're in my house." She set the mug down, exhaled slowly. "His name is Gregory Ashford. He owns half the real estate on the East Coast, hotels, shopping centers, luxury condos. 3 months ago, he approached me about a merger. My company was smaller, but we had something he wanted, a development project in the city that would have been worth billions." And I said no. Her jaw tightened. Not because the deal was bad, because he made it clear the merger came with conditions. Ethan's expression darkened. "What kind of conditions?" "The kind that didn't have anything to do with business." She looked down at her hands. "I turned him down. Politely at first. Then not so politely when he wouldn't take the hint. Let me guess. He didn't like that. 2 weeks later, my company's accounts were frozen. Federal investigators showed up at my office with a warrant. They said someone had been siphoning funds, millions of dollars, into offshore accounts under my name." Her voice cracked. "It wasn't me. But every piece of evidence pointed straight at me. Bank records, emails, signatures, all of it fake but perfect." Ethan leaned forward. "You're saying he framed you?" "I'm saying he destroyed me." Her hands clenched into fists. "Within 48 hours, I lost everything. My company, my reputation. My board voted me out. The press tore me apart. My lawyer said I'd be lucky to avoid prison." "So you ran?" "I didn't have a choice." She looked up at him, eyes red-rimmed. "Everyone I knew turned their back on me. My business partners, my friends. Even my family didn't believe me. Ashford made sure of it. He's too powerful. too connected. No one wants to go against him. Ethan sat back, processing. And you ended up here because I didn't know where else to go. She laughed bitterly. I saw your farm on a registry, remote, off the main roads. I thought maybe you wouldn't recognize me. Or if you did, you wouldn't care. Why would I help you? I don't know. Maybe you won't. She met his eyes. But I'm asking anyway. The room fell silent except for the ticking of the old clock on the wall. Ethan studied her. She didn't look like a thief. She looked like someone who'd been beaten down and was still trying to stand. You can stay tonight, he said finally. There's a guest room upstairs. It's not much, but it's dry. Relief flooded her face. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. He stood. Tomorrow, we figure out what happens next. Morning came too fast. Ethan woke to the sound of Emma's footsteps thundering down the hallway. She was 6, all wild curls and endless energy, and she didn't understand the concept of sleeping in. Daddy, Daddy, there's a lady in the house, Ethan groaned, rolling out of bed. I know, sweetheart, it's okay. Who is she? Someone who needed help. Emma's eyes went wide. Like a superhero? Not exactly. By the time he got downstairs, Victoria was already in the kitchen, looking strangely out of place in her expensive clothes, trying to figure out his ancient coffee maker. It's broken, Ethan said, startling her. Has been for a month. She turned, embarrassed. Sorry, I didn't mean to, It's fine. He moved past her, grabbed the instant coffee from the cupboard. This is Emma. Emma waved. Hi. Victoria managed a small smile. Hi. Are you staying here? Emma asked bluntly. Emma. It's okay, Victoria said. She crouched down to Emma's level. I don't know yet. Is that okay with you? Emma shrugged. I guess. Do you like pancakes? Yes? Good. Daddy makes the best pancakes. She grabbed Victoria's hand, dragging her toward the table. Come on. Ethan watched, bemused, as his daughter commandeered the situation. Victoria looked completely lost, but she followed anyway, sitting at the table while Emma chattered about school and her favorite stuffed animals. For a moment, the farmhouse felt less empty. But the moment didn't last. Around noon, Ethan's phone rang. It was Tom, his closest friend in town, who ran the hardware store. Ethan, you see the news this morning? No. Why? Victoria Hale, the CEO everyone's talking about. They're saying she's on the run, skipped bail. There's a warrant out. Ethan's stomach dropped. He glanced toward the living room where Victoria was reading to Emma. Yeah? Yeah, they're offering a reward for information leading to her arrest. 25 grand. Tom paused. You haven't seen her, have you? Ethan's grip tightened on the phone. No. Good. Just keep your eyes open. Woman like that, desperate, no telling what she'd do. Right. Thanks, Tom. He hung up, staring at the phone. Victoria appeared in the doorway. Bad news? There's a warrant out for your arrest. They're saying you skipped bail. Her face went pale. I didn't skip bail. I was never formally charged. They froze my assets before I could even... She stopped, voice breaking. They're lying, again. Who's lying? Emma asked, peeking around the corner. No one, sweetheart, Ethan said quickly. Go play upstairs for a bit, okay? Emma frowned but obeyed, her footsteps fading up the stairs. Victoria leaned against the wall, closing her eyes. You should turn me in. $25,000 would help with your farm, your daughter. Stop. She opened her eyes. I'm not turning you in, Ethan said firmly. Not until I know the truth. You don't even know me. No, but I know what it's like to lose everything. He set the phone down. And I know what it's like when people stop believing you. She looked at him, something unreadable in her expression. Why are you doing this? Because someone should. The next few days were strange. Victoria tried to stay out of sight, spending most of her time in the guest room or helping with small tasks around the house. She wasn't used to manual labor. Ethan could tell by the way she held a broom like it might bite her. But she tried. Emma took to her immediately, which surprised Ethan. His daughter had been quiet since Rachel died, cautious around new people. But with Victoria, she opened up. They read books together, drew pictures, baked cookies that came out burnt but edible. One evening, Ethan found them in the living room, Emma asleep against Victoria's shoulder. "She's exhausted," Victoria whispered. "We were playing outside. I'll take her up." He lifted Emma carefully, carried her to bed. When he came back down, Victoria was still on the couch, staring at the fireplace. "She's a good kid," Victoria said softly. "She is." She asked about her mom today. Ethan tensed. "What did you say?" "I told her that people we love don't really leave. They just change shape, become part of us." Victoria smiled faintly. She seemed to like that. Ethan sat down beside her. "That's a good answer." They sat in silence for a while, the fire crackling between them. "Can I ask you something?" Victoria said. "Sure." "Why did you stay here? After your wife died, this place is so isolated. Doesn't it make it harder?" Ethan looked at the flames. "Rachel loved it here. Said it was peaceful, away from everything. When she got sick, she made me promise I wouldn't sell. Said Emma needed roots, needed to grow up somewhere real." He paused. "So I stayed. Even though it hurts, especially because it hurts." He glanced at her. Pain means it mattered. Victoria's eyes glistened. She looked away quickly, but not before he saw. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for intruding, for dragging you into my mess." "You didn't drag me into anything. I chose this." "Why?" "Because you needed help, and because, he hesitated. "Because I've been half alive for 3 years. Maybe helping you is helping me too." She met his eyes, and something passed between them. Something unspoken, but real. Before either could say more, headlights swept across the window. They both froze. "Expecting someone?" Victoria asked, voice tight. "No." Ethan stood, moving to the window. A black SUV sat in the driveway, engine running. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out. Tall, expensive suit, graying hair. Ethan's blood went cold. "Who is it?" Victoria asked, joining him. She looked out the window and gasped. "That's him," she breathed. "That's Gregory Ashford." Ethan didn't think. He grabbed Victoria's arm, pulled her away from the window. "Upstairs. Now." "What?" "No, Victoria, go." Something in his voice made her obey. She ran upstairs, footsteps quick and quiet. Ethan took a breath, opened the front door. Ashford stood on the porch, hands in his pockets, smiling like he owned the place. "Ethan Cole," he said smoothly. "I hope I'm not intruding." "You are." Ashford's smile didn't falter. "I'll be brief. I'm looking for someone. A woman. You may have seen her on the news, Victoria Hale." "Haven't seen her." "No?" Ashford stepped closer. "That's strange, because I have it on good authority she's been spotted in this area, and your farm is one of the few places remote enough for someone to hide." Ethan crossed his arms. "Like I said, haven't seen her." "Haven't?" Ashford studied him, eyes sharp. "You know, Mr. Cole, I admire loyalty. I really do. But misguided loyalty can be, costly." He glanced past Ethan into the house. "You have a daughter, don't you? Emma?" Ethan's jaw clenched. "You need to leave." "Of course." Ashford stepped back, still smiling. "But if you do happen to see Ms. Hale, I'd appreciate a call. There's a significant reward, as I'm sure you know. $25,000. That could go a long way for a single father." "I'm not interested." "Think about it." Ashford handed him a card. "For your daughter's sake." He walked back to the SUV, got in, and drove off. Ethan stood there, card in hand, fury building in his chest. Victoria appeared at the top of the stairs, pale. "He threatened you." "He threatened Emma." She came down slowly, face stricken. "Ethan, I should go. Right now, before he—" "No. He'll come back. He'll hurt you. Hurt her. Let him try." Ethan turned to face her. "I'm not letting him win." "This isn't your fight." "It is now." He crumpled the card, tossed it into the fireplace. "He came to my home, threatened my daughter. That makes it personal." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "I can't ask you to do this." "You're not asking. I'm choosing." She stared at him, then nodded slowly. "Okay, then we do this together." "Together," Ethan agreed. Outside, the night pressed close, and somewhere in the distance, headlights cut through the dark. The fight was just beginning. The morning after Ashford's visit, Ethan woke to find Victoria already dressed, standing by the kitchen window with a cup of coffee she'd managed to coax out of the broken machine. She looked like she hadn't slept. "You're up early," he said. She didn't turn around. "I've been thinking." "About?" "About how I can't keep hiding here like a coward while he circles closer." Her reflection in the glass looked hollow. "He knows I'm nearby. It's only a matter of time before he finds proof." Ethan poured himself coffee from the pot she'd made. It tasted burnt, but he drank it anyway. "So what do you want to do?" "I want to fight back." She finally turned to face him. "But I don't know how. He's too powerful, too connected. Every lawyer I contacted before I ran told me the same thing. The evidence against me is airtight. Even if it's fabricated, proving that would take years and resources I don't have." "Then we don't play his game." Ethan set his mug down. "We find our own evidence." "What evidence?" He covered his tracks perfectly. "Nobody's perfect." He leaned against the counter. "You said he framed you. That means somewhere there's a gap, something that doesn't add up. We just have to find it." Victoria laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You make it sound simple." "It's not. But sitting here waiting for him to make the next move isn't going to help either." She studied him for a long moment. "You're serious?" "Dead serious." "Why? You barely know me. For all you know, I could actually be guilty." Ethan met her eyes. "Are you?" "No." "Then that's all I need to know." Something in her expression softened. She opened her mouth to respond, but footsteps on the stairs interrupted them. Emma appeared, rubbing her eyes, dragging her stuffed rabbit behind her. "Morning, baby girl," Ethan said, lifting her onto his hip. "Is Victoria still here?" Emma asked, perking up. "I'm still here," Victoria said gently. "Good." Emma wiggled down and grabbed Victoria's hand. "You promised we'd make waffles today." Victoria glanced at Ethan, uncertain. He nodded. "Waffles it is," Victoria said. Watching them work together in the kitchen, Victoria fumbling with the waffle iron while Emma directed her with the confidence of a seasoned chef, Ethan felt something shift in his chest, something he hadn't felt in years. The house felt less like a tomb and more like a home. But the moment couldn't last. It never did. Around mid-morning, Ethan's phone buzzed. A text from Tom. "Town meeting tonight, 7 p.m. You should come." He texted back. "What's it about?" "Safety concerns. People are worried." Ethan frowned. He could guess what that meant. He showed Victoria the message. Her face went pale. "They're talking about me." "Probably." "You can't go. If someone sees you defending me—" "I'm going," Ethan said firmly. "If they're going to talk, I want to hear what they're saying." "Ethan, this is my town too." "I'm not hiding." She looked like she wanted to argue, but Emma ran back into the room, syrup on her face, and the conversation ended. That evening, Ethan left Victoria at the house with strict instructions to keep the doors locked. Emma was at a friend's house for a sleepover, which was a relief. He didn't want her anywhere near whatever was about to happen. The town hall was packed. Ethan recognized most of the faces, neighbors, shopkeepers, people he'd known for years, but tonight they looked different, tense, angry. Tom waved him over to a seat near the back. "Glad you came. What's going on?" "You'll see." The mayor, a balding man named Carl, called the meeting to order. "All right, folks, let's settle down. We're here to discuss the recent developments regarding Victoria Hale." A murmur ran through the room. Carl continued, "As most of you know, Ms. Hale is wanted for embezzlement and fraud. There's reason to believe she may be hiding in this area. The authorities have asked for our cooperation in locating her." "Why would she come here?" someone called out. "Desperation," a woman in the front row said. "Criminals go where they think they won't be noticed." "She's dangerous," another voice added. "We have families to protect." Ethan's jaw tightened. Tom leaned over. "It's getting ugly." "I can see that." Carl raised his hands. "Now, let's not jump to conclusions. We don't know for certain she's here." "But she could be," a man interrupted. "And if she is, we need to be vigilant. Check our properties, report anything suspicious." "There's a reward," someone else said. 25,000. That's real money." The room erupted in conversation. Ethan listened, stomach churning, as people he'd known for years talked about hunting Victoria down like an animal. Finally, he stood. Can I say something? The room went quiet. All eyes turned to him. Carl nodded. Go ahead, Ethan. Ethan took a breath. I'm just wondering, has anyone here actually looked at the facts, or are we all just going off what we've seen on the news? A few people shifted uncomfortably. What's your point? The woman in the front row asked. My point is we don't know the whole story. Yeah, she's accused, but accused doesn't mean guilty. The evidence is pretty damning, Tom said quietly. Evidence can be faked. That caused a stir. Carl held up a hand. Ethan, I understand you want to be fair, but I'm not asking anyone to hide a criminal, Ethan said. I'm asking people to think before they turn this into a witch hunt. Easy for you to say, a man in the back shouted. You don't have a business to protect. If she's here, she could be stealing from any of us. She's not a thief, Ethan said, the words out before he could stop them. The room went dead silent. Tom stared at him. Ethan. Carl leaned forward. Do you know something we don't? Ethan realized his mistake. He could feel the weight of every gaze on him, suspicion creeping into their expressions. No, he said carefully. I just think we should be careful about rushing to judgment. He's hiding her, the woman in the front row said. That's why he's defending her. I'm not hiding anyone. Then you won't mind if we search your property, the man in the back said. Ethan's hands clenched. You need a warrant for that. Not if you've got nothing to hide. The tension in the room was suffocating. Ethan could see it in their faces. They'd already made up their minds. He was guilty by association. I think we're done here, Ethan said, turning toward the door. Running away doesn't help your case, someone called after him. He didn't respond, just walked out into the cold night air, heart pounding. Tom followed him outside. Ethan, wait! Ethan stopped, but didn't turn around. You need to be careful, Tom said. People are scared. Scared people do stupid things. I know. Is she really there? At your place? Ethan looked at his friend. Tom's expression was conflicted, loyalty warring with duty. If she was, Ethan said slowly, would you turn her in? Tom hesitated. I don't know. That's honest, at least. Ethan, if you're protecting her and it comes out, you could go to jail. Harboring a fugitive, obstruction of justice. They'd throw the book at you. Think about Emma. I am thinking about Emma. Ethan met his eyes. I'm thinking about what kind of man I want her father to be. The kind who turns his back when someone needs help? Or the kind who stands up even when it's hard? Tom sighed. You always were stubborn. Yeah. Just be smart about this, okay? Ethan nodded, then walked to his truck. The drive home felt longer than usual. His mind replayed the meeting, the anger in those faces. These were people he'd lived beside for years, and in one night they'd turned into strangers. When he pulled into the driveway, the house was dark except for a single light in the kitchen. He found Victoria sitting at the table, arms wrapped around herself. How bad was it? She asked. Bad. He told her everything. She closed her eyes. I should leave, tonight, before this gets worse. Where would you go? I don't know, anywhere. Somewhere he can't find me. Victoria, he already found you. He'll find you again. Ethan sat down across from her. Running won't fix this. Neither will staying. I'm putting you and Emma in danger. We're already in danger. Leaving now just makes it worse. She looked up at him, eyes red. Why are you doing this? Really? Ethan was quiet for a moment. When Rachel got sick, everyone had advice. Doctors, specialists, people who barely knew us. They all had opinions about what we should do. Clinical trials, experimental treatments, all of it. But nobody asked what she wanted. Nobody listened when she said she was tired of fighting, that she just wanted to spend her last months at home with Emma. Victoria listened, silent. I promised her I'd stay here, keep this place going, raise Emma somewhere real. He met Victoria's eyes. But I also promised myself I wouldn't become the kind of person who stops listening, who stops seeing people as people. He paused. You came here asking for help. I heard you. And I'm not walking away. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I don't deserve this. Maybe not, but you need it, and I need to give it. He stood. So we're going to figure this out. Together. She wiped her eyes, nodding. Okay, what do we do first? We start digging. You said Ashford framed you. How? The bank records showed transfers from my company accounts to offshore holdings. The emails showed correspondence between me and the offshore bank. My signature was on everything. But you didn't sign anything. No. He must have forged them somehow. What about witnesses? Anyone who could testify you weren't involved? My CFO might have helped, but he's the one who turned me in. Said he found the discrepancies during a routine audit. Her voice hardened. I think Ashford paid him off. Can we prove that? Not without access to his financial records. And good luck getting those. Ethan thought for a moment. What about the original accusation? Where did it supposedly happen? The transactions traced back to a bank in the Cayman Islands, but the initial transfers were flagged by my company's bank here, a place called First Harbor Bank. First Harbor? Ethan frowned. That's a small chain. There's a branch in town. So? So small banks mean fewer layers, easier to trace where things went wrong. He pulled out his phone, started searching. If Ashford faked those transactions, he needed someone on the inside, someone with access to your accounts. Victoria's eyes widened. You think someone at the bank was involved? It's worth checking. They spent the next hour researching. First Harbor Bank had 3 employees at the local branch. The manager, a teller, and a loan officer. None of the names meant anything to Victoria. I never dealt with them directly, she said. Everything went through corporate accounts. Then we need to look closer. Ethan pulled up the bank's website, scrolled through their staff photos. Recognize anyone? Victoria leaned over his shoulder, studying each face. She was about to shake her head when she froze. Him. Ethan followed her gaze. A middle-aged man with graying hair and a forced smile. The nameplate read David Brennan, loan officer. What about him? He was at a fundraiser I attended 6 months ago. Ashford introduced us. Her voice went cold. He said Brennan was someone worth knowing. I didn't think anything of it at the time. That's not a coincidence. No, it's not. Ethan sat back. So Ashford has someone inside the bank. Brennan helps fake the transactions, makes it look like you authorized them. And boom, you're guilty. But how do we prove it? We talked to Brennan. Victoria stared at him. You can't be serious. Why not? Because he's not going to confess. And if he tells Ashford we came asking questions, then we don't give him the chance to tell Ashford. Ethan stood. We catch him off guard, make him slip up. That's insane. You have a better idea? She didn't. And the look on her face said she knew it. Over the next 2 days they planned. Ethan did reconnaissance, figuring out Brennan's routine. The man was punctual to a fault. Arrived at the bank at 8, left at 5, stopped at the same diner every day for lunch. On the 3rd day, Ethan sat in that diner, waiting. Brennan walked in at 12:30, just like clockwork. He ordered coffee and a sandwich, sat in a booth by the window. Ethan approached. David Brennan? Brennan looked up, startled. Yes? Can I help you? I hope so. Ethan slid into the seat across from him. I'm looking into some discrepancies with First Harbor Bank. Thought you might be able to clear things up. Brennan's expression shifted, polite confusion to wariness. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Victoria Hale, the embezzlement case. Brennan stiffened. I'm afraid I can't discuss client matters. She's not your client anymore. She's a fugitive. Ethan leaned forward. But here's the thing. I don't think she did it. I think someone set her up. And I think you know who. I don't know what you're implying. Gregory Ashford. The color drained from Brennan's face. Yeah, Ethan said quietly. That's what I thought. Brennan looked around nervously, lowering his voice. You need to leave now. Not until you tell me what happened. I can't. Can't? Or won't? Brennan's hands shook as he reached for his coffee. You don't understand, Ashford. He's not someone you cross. I'm starting to figure that out. Ethan's voice hardened. But right now, an innocent woman is on the run because of what you helped him do. So you're going to tell me the truth, or I'm going to make sure everyone knows you were involved. You can't prove anything. Maybe not, but I can make a lot of noise. And Ashford doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who likes loose ends. Brennan's face went pale. You're threatening me. I'm giving you a choice. Help us or take your chances with him. Brennan sat there, trembling, caught between terror and guilt. Finally, he whispered, "There's security footage." Ethan's pulse quickened. "What?" "The diner. Ashford met me here. 3 months ago, we discussed the plan. I didn't know the cameras were running, but they record everything." He swallowed. "If you can get that footage, it'll show we were working together." "Where's the footage stored?" "The owner keeps it in the back office. Goes back 6 months. Ethan stood. "Don't call Ashford. Don't warn him. If you do, I'll make sure you go down with him." Brennan nodded, looking sick. Ethan walked out, heart pounding. He texted Victoria. "We've got something." That night, they sat in the farmhouse, weighing their options. "The diner footage could prove everything," Victoria said. "But how do we get it? The owner's not just going to hand it over. We ask." "And if he says no?" Ethan didn't answer right away. Then, "We take it." Victoria's eyes widened. "You mean break in?" "I mean do whatever it takes." "Ethan, that's illegal. If we get caught. If we don't, you spend the rest of your life running." He looked at her. "I'm not letting that happen." She stared at him, something fierce and fragile in her expression. "You could lose everything." "I already lost everything once. I'm still here." He reached across the table, took her hand. "We do this together." "Or not at all." Her fingers tightened around his. "Together." They made their move 2 nights later. The diner closed at 10. By 11, the street was empty. Ethan had scouted the back entrance, old lock, no alarm system. Victoria kept watch while Ethan worked the lock. It took longer than he'd hoped, but eventually it clicked open. They slipped inside. The office was cramped, cluttered with paperwork and old equipment. Ethan found the security system in the corner, a digital recorder with a small monitor. "How far back does it go?" Victoria whispered. Ethan checked the files. 8 months. "Find October." He scrolled through the footage, searching for the right date. There, October 12th. He fast-forwarded through hours of nothing, then stopped. On the screen, Ashford and Brennan sat in a booth talking. Ashford handed Brennan an envelope. Brennan opened it, counted cash. "That's it," Victoria breathed. "That's proof." Ethan pulled out a USB drive, started copying the file. A noise outside made them both freeze. Footsteps, keys jingling. "Someone's coming," Victoria hissed. The file was still transferring. 50%. 60. The back door opened. 75%. A flashlight beam swept across the hallway. 90%. "Who's there?" a voice called. The file finished. Ethan grabbed the drive, grabbed Victoria's hand, and ran. They burst out the front door, sprinting down the street. Behind them, shouts. The flashlight beam chasing them. They didn't stop until they reached the truck, parked 3 blocks away. Ethan gunned the engine, tires squealing as they tore out of town. Victoria was breathing hard, adrenaline written all over her face. "Did we get it?" Ethan held up the drive. "We got it." She started laughing, wild, breathless, half hysterical. "We actually did it." "Yeah." Ethan couldn't help but grin. "We did." But as they drove back toward the farm, headlights appeared behind them, close, too close. Victoria looked back. "Ethan?" The vehicle behind them accelerated. Ethan's grin faded. "Hold on." He floored it. The truck's engine screamed as Ethan pushed it past 70 on the narrow country road. The headlights behind them matched every turn, every acceleration, staying close enough that he could see the outline of the vehicle in his rearview mirror. A black SUV, the same one Ashford had driven to the farm. "Is it him?" Victoria gripped the dashboard, voice tight. "I don't know. Maybe." Ethan's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. The road ahead twisted through dense woods, no streetlights, just darkness pressing in from both sides. Whoever it is, they're not backing off. "Can we lose them?" "On this road? Not likely." He glanced at her. "But I know these back routes better than anyone." He yanked the wheel hard right onto a dirt path barely visible between the trees. The truck bounced violently over ruts and rocks. Victoria braced herself against the door. Behind them, the SUV hesitated for just a second before following. "They're still coming," she said. "I know." The path narrowed, branches scraping against the windows. Ethan killed the headlights, navigating by memory and moonlight. The world went dark except for the silver glow filtering through the canopy above. The SUV's lights blazed behind them, closer now, the driver not willing to go blind like Ethan had. "What are you doing?" Victoria asked. "Trust me." Ahead, the path split. Ethan knew the left fork led to an old logging road that looped back toward town. The right fork dead-ended at a ravine. He took the right. "Ethan, I said trust me." The path got rougher. The truck lurched over a fallen log. Victoria grabbed the handle above her door. The SUV's engine roared behind them, gaining ground. Then Ethan saw it. The turnoff. So overgrown it was almost invisible. He cranked the wheel left, the truck fishtailing as it skidded onto an even narrower trail. The SUV blew past the turn, brakes squealing as it tried to stop. Ethan didn't wait to see if they'd figure it out. He punched the gas, the truck bouncing through underbrush until they hit another dirt road. He turned left, then right, weaving through a maze of old farm trails he'd explored as a kid. 5 minutes later, they emerged onto a paved road 3 miles from the farm. He finally turned the headlights back on. Checked the mirror. Nothing behind them but empty road. Victoria let out a shaky breath. "How did you know about those trails?" "Grew up here. Used to ride dirt bikes through those woods with my brother." He glanced at her. "You okay?" Define okay. Not hurt, not panicking. She laughed, but it sounded brittle. "Then, yeah, I'm okay." They drove in silence for a while. The adrenaline was starting to fade, replaced by the reality of what they'd just done. Broken into a business, stolen evidence, been chased through the woods by someone who probably wanted them dead. "We can't go back to the farm," Victoria said quietly. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Why not?" "Because whoever that was knows your truck, knows we're together. If it was Ashford, he'll be waiting." She looked at him. "And Emma's at her friend's house until tomorrow. She's safe. For now, but if we show up at the farm and he's there, then we call the cops, show them the footage." "The footage of us breaking into a diner?" Victoria's voice rose. "Ethan, we're not the good guys here, not legally. If we walk into a police station with that USB drive, they'll arrest us before they even look at it." He wanted to argue, wanted to tell her she was wrong, but she wasn't. "So what do we do?" he asked. She stared out the window at the dark landscape rushing past. "We need someone we can trust, someone with authority who'll actually listen." "I don't know anyone like that." "Neither do I. Not anymore, Saad." She pressed her palms against her eyes. "Everyone I knew either turned on me or got bought off." Ethan thought hard. There had to be someone. Then it hit him. "What about a journalist?" Victoria lowered her hands. "What?" "A journalist. Someone who'd actually investigate this instead of just taking Ashford's word for it." He was already pulling out his phone with one hand. "There's a reporter in the city, covered some corruption cases a few years back, made a name for herself going after powerful people." "You think she'd help us?" "Only one way to find out." He found the number online, called it. It rang 4 times before a woman's voice answered, groggy with sleep. "This better be important. It's almost midnight." "Sarah Reeves? Who's asking?" "My name's Ethan Cole. I've got evidence of fraud and conspiracy involving Gregory Ashford." There was a pause. Then, alert now. "What kind of evidence?" "The kind that proves he framed Victoria Hale." Another pause. Longer this time. "Where are you?" "Driving. Can we meet?" "Not at my office. Too exposed." She rattled off an address. "There's a diner on 5th Street. Be there in an hour." "We'll be there." He hung up. Victoria was staring at him. "A journalist," she said. "That's your plan. You have a better one?" She didn't answer, which was answer enough. They drove toward the city, taking back roads to avoid traffic cameras. The closer they got to civilization, the more exposed Ethan felt. Every car that passed could be Ashford's people. Every stoplight felt like a trap. The diner was one of those all-night places that catered to truckers and insomniacs. Fluorescent lights, cracked vinyl booths, coffee that tasted like burnt rubber. Sarah Reeves was already there, sitting in a corner booth with a laptop and a recorder on the table in front of her. She was younger than Ethan expected, maybe 35, with short dark hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She looked up as they approached, her gaze flicking between them. "Victoria Hale," she said. Not a question. Victoria slid into the booth. That's me. You know there's a warrant out for your arrest. I know. And you're here because you think I can help you. We're here because we have proof Gregory Ashford framed me, and we need someone who'll actually do something with it. Sarah leaned back, arms crossed. I'm listening. Ethan pulled out the USB drive, set it on the table. Security footage from October 12th shows Ashford meeting with a loan officer from First Harbor Bank, the same bank that flagged the fraudulent transactions in Victoria's accounts. Sarah picked up the drive, turning it over in her fingers. How'd you get this? Does it matter? It matters if I'm going to use it. Chain of custody, admissibility in court. If you obtain this illegally, it's worthless. Victoria and Ethan exchanged a look. Sarah caught it. You broke in, she said flatly. We did what we had to do, Ethan said. That's not how the law works. The law wasn't working for her, Ethan shot back. Ashford owns half the people who are supposed to enforce it. So yeah, we broke some rules. But what's on that drive is real. Sarah was quiet for a moment, studying them both. Then she plugged the drive into her laptop. The footage played. Ashford and Brennan in the booth, the envelope, the money. She watched it twice, then looked up. This is good, but it's not enough. Victoria's face fell. What do you mean it's not enough? I mean, it shows a payoff, but not what the payoff was for. A defense lawyer would argue this could be anything, a loan, a gift, a private business deal. You need more. You need Brennan to testify. He won't, Ethan said. He's terrified of Ashford. Then make him more terrified of the alternative. Sarah closed the laptop. I'll start digging into Ashford's financials, see what I can find. But you two need to get Brennan on record admitting what he did. Without that, this footage is just circumstantial. How are we supposed to do that? Victoria asked. However you can. Sarah handed the drive back. But do it fast, because if Ashford knows you have this, he's going to come at you hard. They left the diner with more questions than answers. Dawn was starting to break, pale light creeping over the horizon. Ethan felt exhausted down to his bones. He hadn't slept in over 24 hours, and the weight of everything they'd done was starting to settle on him. We need to rest, Victoria said, as if reading his mind. Where? I don't know. A motel? Too risky. Ashford probably has people watching them. He thought for a moment. I know a place. He drove them to an old hunting cabin his father had owned, about 15 miles outside town. It hadn't been used in years, but Ethan still had the key. The place was dusty and cold, but it was shelter. And more importantly, it was off the grid. Victoria collapsed onto the sagging couch while Ethan checked the perimeter, making sure they hadn't been followed. When he came back inside, she was asleep, curled up with her arms wrapped around herself. He found an old blanket in a closet, draped it over her. She stirred but didn't wake. In the dim light, she looked younger, vulnerable. Nothing like the polished CEO from the magazines. Ethan sat in the chair across from her, watching her breathe. Somewhere along the way, this had stopped being about helping a stranger. He wasn't sure when it had happened, but it had. She mattered to him now, more than he wanted to admit. He pulled out his phone, texted Emma's friend's mom. Something came up. Can Emma stay another night? The response came quickly. Of course. Everything okay? Will be soon, he typed back. He hoped he wasn't lying. He dozed off in the chair, waking a few hours later to find Victoria awake, standing by the window. Couldn't sleep? He asked. Not really. She turned to face him. I keep thinking about Brennan. How do we get him to talk? I don't know. Threaten him again? He's already scared. Pushing harder might make him run to Ashford instead. Then we offer him something. Like what? Ethan stood, moved to the window beside her. Protection. A deal. Tell him if he testifies, we'll make sure he doesn't go down with Ashford. Can we promise that? No, but he doesn't know that. Victoria looked at him, something sad in her expression. When did you get so good at this? I'm not good at it. I'm just desperate. He met her eyes. Same as you. She reached out, her hand finding his. Her fingers were cold. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. You didn't drag me anywhere. I chose to be here. Why? He'd been asking himself the same question. There were 100 reasons he could give, because it was the right thing to do, because Emma deserved a father who stood up for people, because he was tired of feeling dead inside. But the truth was simpler and more complicated than any of that. Because when I look at you, he said quietly. I don't see someone who's broken. I see someone who's still fighting, and I forgot what that looked like. Her eyes filled with tears. She didn't say anything, just stepped closer, her forehead resting against his shoulder. He wrapped his arms around her, and for a moment, the world narrowed to just the two of them in that dusty cabin, holding on like they were the only solid thing in each other's lives. Then his phone rang. He pulled it out, heart sinking when he saw the name. Tom. I have to take this, he said. Victoria stepped back, wiping her eyes. He answered, Ethan, where are you? Why? Because there are cops at your farm right now, and they're not looking friendly. Ethan's stomach dropped. What happened? Someone reported a break-in at Murphy's Diner last night. Security footage shows a man and a woman. The owner says it looks like you. Tom's voice dropped. Tell me you didn't do it. Ethan closed his eyes. I can't. Jesus, Ethan. Tom sounded more hurt than angry. What were you thinking? I was thinking I needed evidence. Evidence of what? That Victoria's innocent. There was a long silence. Then, they're going to arrest you. You know that, right? I know. And Emma stays with you until this is over. Ethan, please, Tom. She's all I've got. Keep her safe. Tom sighed. I will. But you need to turn yourself in. Running's only going to make it worse. I'm not running. Not yet. He looked at Victoria. I'm finishing this. He hung up before Tom could argue. Victoria was pale. They know, she said. Yeah. We're out of time. Then we move now. He grabbed his keys. Brennan goes to that diner every day for lunch. We've got maybe 4 hours before he shows up. And do what? We can't just walk in there and force a confession. No, but we can make him think we're about to ruin his life if he doesn't talk. Ethan's mind was racing, piecing together a plan. Sarah said she'd dig into Ashford's finances. If we can get her to bluff, tell Brennan she's about to publish a story connecting him to the fraud, he might break. That's a lot of ifs. You got a better idea? She didn't. They never did. They drove back toward town, Ethan's truck feeling like a target now. He parked 2 blocks from the diner, called Sarah. She answered on the first ring. I need a favor, he said. I'm not in the business of doing favors. Then call it an investment. You want the story, right? Ashford going down? I'm listening. He explained the plan. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. That's borderline witness intimidation, she said finally. It's journalism. It's a crime. So was what Ashford did to Victoria, you in or not? Another pause. Then, send me Brennan's number. Ethan did. They waited in the truck, watching the diner. At 12:30, Brennan walked in right on schedule. 5 minutes later, his phone rang. Ethan couldn't hear the conversation, but he could see Brennan's face go white through the window. Sarah's good, Victoria murmured. Let's hope it's enough. Brennan hung up, stood abruptly, and walked out of the diner. He didn't go back to the bank. Instead, he got in his car and drove. Ethan followed at a distance, careful not to get too close. Brennan ended up at a park on the edge of town, sitting on a bench with his head in his hands. Ethan and Victoria approached slowly. Mr. Brennan, Ethan said. Brennan looked up, and for a moment Ethan thought he might run, but he just sat there, defeated. You called her, Brennan said. The reporter. We did. She's going to ruin me. Ashford already did that. You just don't know it yet. Ethan sat down beside him. But there's a way out. There's no way out. You don't understand what he's capable of. Then help us take him down. Brennan laughed bitterly. You think it's that simple? You think I can just testify and everything will be fine? No, Victoria said, sitting on his other side. But it's the only chance you've got. Because if you don't talk, you're going down with him. And unlike Ashford, you don't have the money or power to fight it. Brennan was shaking. He threatened my family. Said if I ever talked, he'd make sure they suffered. He won't get the chance, Ethan said. Not if we move fast. You can't promise that. No, but we can promise that if you stay silent, you're guaranteeing it. Ethan leaned closer. Help us, please. Brennan sat there for what felt like forever. Then, slowly, he nodded. I'll talk. But I need protection. Real protection. We'll get it, Victoria said. I swear. They recorded Brennan's confession right there in the park. He told them everything. How Ashford had approached him 6 months ago. How he'd been paid to create fake transactions in Victoria's name. How the CFO had been in on it too. Both of them promised a cut of the profits Ashford would make once he took over Victoria's company. When it was over, Brennan looked hollow. What happens now? He asked. Now we take this to the authorities, Ethan said, and we make sure Ashford can't hurt anyone else. But as they walked back to the truck, Ethan's phone rang again. This time it was a number he didn't recognize. He answered. Hello? Ethan Cole? The voice was smooth, cold, familiar. Gregory Ashford. We need to talk. Ethan's blood ran cold. How did you get this number? I know a lot of things, including where you are right now. There was a pause. And where your daughter is. Ethan stopped walking. Victoria turned, saw his face, and went pale. If you touch her, relax. I'm not interested in hurting children, but I am interested in making a deal. I'm not dealing with you. You will if you're smart. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to give me that security footage and whatever else you've collected. And in return, I'll make the charges against Ms. Hale disappear. She gets her life back. You get to keep yours. Ashford's voice hardened. Or you can keep fighting, and I'll destroy both of you, and your daughter will watch it happen. Ethan's hand tightened on the phone. You son of a... You have 1 hour to decide. I'll be waiting at your farm. The line went dead. Victoria grabbed his arm. What did he say? He knows where Emma is. He's threatening her. Then we call the police right now. And tell them what? That the man we're accusing of fraud is making threats? They'll think we're lying, or worse, they'll arrest us first for the break-in. Victoria looked stricken. So what do we do? Ethan stared at the phone in his hand, then at the USB drive in his pocket, then at Victoria, standing there with hope and fear written all over her face. He'd promised himself he wouldn't let Ashford win, that he'd see this through no matter what. But Emma was his daughter, his whole world, and if something happened to her because of this... We go to the farm, he said quietly. We face him. Ethan, no, that's suicide. Then we die. But we do it fighting. He met her eyes. I'm not giving up, not now. She stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. Okay, we fight. They drove toward the farm in silence, the weight of what they were about to do pressing down like a physical thing. Ethan's mind kept circling back to Emma, her laugh, the way she dragged her stuffed rabbit everywhere, how she'd looked at Victoria that first morning like she was something magical. If Ashford had people watching her, if he'd already made a move... She's okay, Victoria said quietly, as if she could read his thoughts. He wouldn't touch her, not yet. He needs leverage, and leverage only works if the threat is still alive. That's not as comforting as you think it is. I know. She looked out the window at the fields rolling past. But it's true. Ashford's a lot of things, but he's calculated. Hurting Emma now would eliminate his advantage. He wants us scared, not reckless. Ethan's hands tightened on the wheel. He picked the wrong guy to threaten. I noticed. As they got closer, Ethan called Tom. It rang twice before his friend answered. Is she safe? Ethan asked immediately. Emma? Yeah, she's fine, playing in the backyard with my kids. Why? Keep her inside, lock the doors. Ethan, what's going on? Just do it, please. I'll explain later. He hung up before Tom could argue. One less thing to worry about, for now. The farm appeared ahead, looking deceptively peaceful in the afternoon light. The black SUV was parked in the driveway, exactly where Ashford said it would be. Ethan pulled in beside it, killed the engine. Last chance to run, he said. Victoria shook her head. We're past that. They got out. The front door was open, which meant Ashford had let himself in. Probably picked the lock or had someone do it for him. Ethan felt a flash of anger at the violation, but pushed it down. Anger wouldn't help right now. Inside, Ashford stood in the living room like he owned the place, examining the photo on the mantel, the one of Ethan, Rachel, and Emma at the carnival. Lovely family, Ashford said without turning around. Your wife was beautiful. Such a shame. Get away from that, Ethan said, voice low and dangerous. Ashford set the photo down carefully, turned to face them. He looked completely at ease, hands in his pockets, that same cold smile on his face. Mr. Cole, Miss Hale, I'm glad you could make it. You threatened my daughter. I made an observation. There's a difference. Ashford moved to the couch, sat down like he was settling in for a conversation. Please sit. We have things to discuss. We'll stand, Victoria said. Suit yourself. Ashford crossed one leg over the other. So, you've been busy, breaking into diners, harassing bank employees, talking to reporters. Very industrious. You've been busy too, Ethan said, framing innocent people, bribing witnesses, destroying lives. I prefer to think of it as protecting my interests. Ashford's smile didn't waver. Miss Hale had something I wanted. She refused to cooperate, so I found another way to acquire it. By making everyone think I'm a criminal, Victoria said, voice shaking with controlled rage. By removing an obstacle. Ashford shrugged. Nothing personal, just business. You ruined me. I gave you an opportunity. You chose not to take it. He leaned forward slightly. But here's the interesting part. I'm willing to offer you that opportunity again. Both of you. Ethan's jaw tightened. We're not interested. You haven't heard the offer yet. Don't need to. Mr. Cole, you're about to be arrested for breaking and entering. Miss Hale is wanted for embezzlement and skipping bail. Your daughter is about to watch her father go to prison. Ashford let that sink in. Unless you give me what I want. The footage, Victoria said, and the confession from Mr. Brennan, and anything else you've managed to scrape together. Ashford stood. Give me all of it, and I'll make your problems disappear. The charges against Ms. Hale will be quietly dropped. The diner won't press charges against you. Everyone walks away. Except you get her company, Ethan said. I was going to get it anyway. This just speeds up the timeline. Ashford pulled out his phone, showed them the screen. It was a text message with an address. That's where Mr. Brennan's wife works. His daughter's school is 3 blocks away. I'd hate for anything unfortunate to happen to them. Victoria went pale. You're threatening their family, too. I'm ensuring compliance. Ashford pocketed the phone. So what's it going to be? Do we have a deal? Ethan looked at Victoria. Her face was a storm of emotions, fear, anger, desperation. He could see her doing the math, weighing the costs. If they gave Ashford what he wanted, Brennan's family would be safe. Victoria would get her life back, at least on paper. Emma wouldn't have to visit her father in prison. But Ashford would win. And he'd keep winning, keep destroying people, because no one would ever stand up to him. Victoria met Ethan's eyes. He saw the question there. What do we do? He thought about Rachel, about the promise he'd made to her. To raise Emma somewhere real, somewhere with roots. To be the kind of man she'd be proud of. He thought about Victoria, standing in his doorway that first night, soaking wet and desperate. He thought about Emma, asking if Victoria was staying, and he made his choice. No deal, Ethan said. Ashford's smile faded. Excuse me? You heard me, no deal. Mr. Cole, I don't think you understand. I understand perfectly. Ethan took a step forward. You think you can walk in here, threaten everyone I care about, and I'll just roll over. But you're wrong. Ethan, Victoria whispered, what are you doing? What I should have done from the start. He pulled out his phone, held it up so Ashford could see. You're not the only one who can make calls. He'd been recording since they walked in. Every word, every threat. Ashford's expression went cold. That won't hold up in court. Maybe not. But it'll hold up in the press. Ethan hit send. The recording went straight to Sarah Reeves. By tonight, everyone's going to know exactly what you are. For the first time, Ashford looked rattled. You're making a mistake. Probably. But it's my mistake to make. Ashford stood, straightening his jacket. The friendly mask was gone completely now. You have no idea what you've just done. Neither do you. Ashford walked toward the door, paused. I'm going to destroy you, both of you, and there won't be anywhere left to run. Then we'll stand and fight, Victoria said, finding her voice. Right here. Ashford stared at them for a long moment. Then he walked out, the door slamming behind him. The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan realized he was shaking. Victoria reached out, steadied his hand. That was either the bravest thing I've ever seen, she said, or the stupidest. Probably both. She laughed, but it came out choked. He's going to come after us hard now. I know. We need help, real help. Ethan's phone rang. Sarah Reeves. I got your recording, she said when he answered. It's good, really good, but Ashford's lawyers will tie it up in court for years. So what do we do? You let me run the story? Tonight. All of it, the footage, Brennan's confession, this recording, I'll publish it online where his lawyers can't touch it, force the authorities to investigate. Will it work? It better, because if it doesn't, you're both going to need new identities. She paused. I need everything you've got. Send it now. Ethan looked at Victoria. She nodded. He sent it all. The security footage, the audio files, Brennan's confession, everything they'd risked their lives to gather. How long until it goes live? Ethan asked. 2 hours? Maybe 3? I need to verify sources, get legal to sign off. Sarah's voice softened slightly. You two should get somewhere safe. When this hits, Ashford's going to lose his mind. Where's safe? I don't know, but not there. She hung up. Ethan stood in his living room looking around at the home he'd shared with Rachel, the place where he'd raised Emma, where he'd let Victoria in that first desperate night. We should go, Victoria said. Yeah. But before they could move, headlights swept across the windows again, multiple vehicles this time. Ethan's stomach sank. He looked outside. 3 police cars, officers getting out, hands on their weapons. Ethan Cole, a voice called through a megaphone. Come out with your hands up. Victoria grabbed his arm. We can explain. Show them the evidence. They won't listen. Not yet. Ethan pulled away, moved toward the door. Stay here. No. Victoria, please. He opened the door, hands raised. The officers immediately moved forward, surrounding him. He recognized one of them, Deputy Harris, someone he'd known for years. Harris, listen. Save it, Ethan. Harris grabbed his arm, pulled it behind his back. The cuffs clicked into place. You're under arrest for breaking and entering. You have the right to remain silent. I know my rights, but you need to know what's really happening here. I said, save it. They led him toward one of the cars. Ethan looked back at the house. Victoria stood in the doorway, face pale, and for a moment their eyes met. He tried to tell her without words, hold on, stay strong. This isn't over. Then they pushed him into the back of the car, and she disappeared from view. The police station was exactly as grim as Ethan expected. Fluorescent lights, stale coffee, the smell of desperation and bureaucracy. They put him in an interrogation room, left him there for what felt like hours, but was probably only 40 minutes. When the door finally opened, it wasn't a cop. It was a man in an expensive suit carrying a briefcase. Mr. Cole, my name is Richard Morrison. I'm an attorney. I didn't call a lawyer. Someone did it for you. Morrison sat down across from him. And it's a good thing. You're in serious trouble. Who hired you? That's confidential, but they're very interested in making sure you don't say anything stupid. Morrison opened his briefcase, pulled out papers. The charges are breaking and entering, theft of private property, and conspiracy. If convicted, you're looking at 3 to 5 years minimum. Ethan's stomach dropped. 3 to 5, and that's if we plea down. If they add more charges, or if the prosecutor decides to make an example of you, Morrison shrugged, you could be looking at a decade. This is insane. I was trying to expose fraud by committing crimes yourself. Morrison leaned forward. Listen to me very carefully. Your only play here is to cooperate. Tell them everything. Victoria Hale, the reporter, whoever else was involved. Give them something to work with and we can negotiate a deal. Ethan stared at him. You want me to throw Victoria under the bus? I want you to think about your daughter. Who's going to take care of her if you're in prison? The mention of Emma hit like a punch. Morrison saw it, pressed his advantage. You're not a criminal, Mr. Cole. You're a father who made some poor choices trying to help someone. The court will be sympathetic if you show remorse. But you have to give them something. Ethan's mind was racing. Emma, Victoria, the evidence they'd sent to Sarah. If he talked now, before the story broke, it could all fall apart. I want to call my friend, Ethan said. Tom, he's watching my daughter. Morrison hesitated, then nodded. One call. They brought him a phone. Ethan dialed Tom's number with shaking hands. Ethan, where are you? Police station. They arrested me. What? For what? Doesn't matter. Is Emma okay? She's fine. She's asking about you. Tell her, Ethan's voice cracked. Tell her I'll be home soon. Will you? I don't know. He closed his eyes. Tom, I need you to do something for me. There's a reporter named Sarah Reeves. In about an hour, she's going to publish a story online. I need you to make sure everyone sees it, share it everywhere, make it go viral. What kind of story? The kind that proves I'm not crazy. He glanced at Morrison, who was watching him carefully. Can you do that? Yeah, I can do that. Thank you. Ethan's throat was tight. And Tom, take care of Emma. If something happens to me, nothing's going to happen to you. Just promise me. There was a long pause. I promise. Ethan hung up. Morrison was frowning. What was that about? Insurance. Before Morrison could respond, the door opened. Deputy Harris walked in, looking grim. We need to talk about Victoria Hale, Harris said. Where is she? I don't know. Mr. Cole? I don't know, Ethan repeated. We split up after I sent her somewhere safe. Where? I told you, I don't know. Harris slammed his hand on the table. You're protecting a fugitive. That's another felony. She's not a fugitive. She's innocent. That's for a jury to decide. No, Ethan said. That's for the truth to decide. And the truth's about to come out. Harris and Morrison exchanged a look. Morrison cleared his throat. Perhaps we should take a break. No break. Harris pulled out his phone, showed Ethan a photo. It was Victoria, getting into a car outside the farm. We have units looking for her right now. When we find her, she's going away for a long time. Unless you help us. Ethan looked at the photo. Victoria's face was turned away from the camera, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. She was running again, alone. I can't help you, he said quietly. Can't? Or won't? Both. Harris stood abruptly. Then you're done. I'll let the prosecutor know you refuse to cooperate. He looked at Morrison. Good luck with this one. He left. Morrison started packing up his briefcase. You're making a mistake, Morrison said. Story of my life. Your daughter's going to grow up without a father. She's going to grow up knowing her father stood for something. Ethan met his eyes. That matters more. Morrison shook his head, walked out. Ethan sat alone in the interrogation room, hands cuffed to the table, waiting. His phone was gone. He had no way of knowing if Sarah had published the story, if Tom had spread it, if any of it was making a difference. All he could do was wait. An hour passed, then another. Ethan's back ached from the hard chair. His wrists were raw from the cuffs. He thought about Emma, wondered what Tom was telling her, wondered if she understood why her dad wasn't there. The door opened. Harris again, but his expression was different now, confused, almost uncertain. You've got a visitor, Harris said. Who? You'll see. They led him down a hallway to a different room. Sitting at the table was Sarah Reeves, her laptop open in front of her. Ms. Reeves is here as press, Harris said stiffly. You're not required to speak with her. I'll speak with her. Harris left, but Ethan could see him watching through the window. Sarah waited until the door closed. Your friend Tom is a magician. The story's been shared over 100,000 times in the last hour. Ethan's heart jumped. It's live? Very live, and people are losing their minds. She turned the laptop so he could see. The headline read, Billionaire Gregory Ashford accused of fraud, conspiracy and elaborate frame-up. Below it was everything, the security footage, Brennan's confession, the recording from the farm, all of it laid out in clear, undeniable detail. The FBI's already opened an investigation, Sarah said. Ashford's lawyers are scrambling, and Victoria Hale's name is being cleared in the court of public opinion, which is half the battle. What about the legal charges against her? Those take time. But with this much attention, the prosecutor's going to have to look at the case again, maybe drop it entirely. Sarah leaned back. You did it, Ethan. You actually did it. He wanted to feel relief, victory, something, but all he felt was exhausted. What happens now? Now you get a real lawyer, someone who's not on Ashford's payroll. She gave him a small smile. Morrison was a plant, by the way. Ashford sent him to make sure you stayed quiet. I figured. You didn't take the deal. No. Why not? Ethan thought about it. About Rachel. About Victoria. about Emma asking if the stranger at their door was a superhero. Because some things matter more than being safe, he said finally. Sarah studied him for a moment. I'll put that in the follow-up piece. She left. Harris came back in, uncuffed him from the table. You're free to go, Harris said. He didn't sound happy about it. Just like that, the charges are being reviewed. Until then, you're released on your own recognizance. Harris opened the door. Don't leave town. Ethan walked out into the station lobby. Tom was waiting there with Emma. The moment she saw him, she ran, and Ethan caught her, lifting her into his arms. Daddy! Hey, baby girl. He held her tight, breathing in the smell of her shampoo. I'm sorry I scared you. Uncle Tom said you were helping someone. I was. Did you help them? Ethan looked at Tom over her head. Tom had his phone out, showing the news articles spreading across social media. The comment sections were filling up with outrage at Ashford, support for Victoria, questions about justice. Yeah, Ethan said softly. I think I did. Tom drove them back to the farm. It was late, almost midnight. Emma fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from the emotional day. You know the whole town's talking about you, right? Tom said as they pulled into the driveway. I figured. Some people think you're crazy, but a lot of people think you're a hero. I'm not a hero. I just did what needed doing. Tom smiled slightly. Yeah, that's exactly what a hero would say. Ethan carried Emma inside, put her to bed. She stirred as he tucked her in. Is Victoria coming back? She mumbled, half asleep. I don't know, sweetheart. I hope so. I like her. Me too. He kissed her forehead, watched her drift back to sleep. Then he went downstairs, collapsed onto the couch. Tom had made coffee, handed him a mug. What now? Now we wait and see if any of this actually sticks. It'll stick. Too many people are watching now. Ethan hoped he was right, but hope felt dangerous. He'd hoped Rachel would beat the cancer. He'd hoped Emma would be okay after her mom died. Hope had a way of turning into disappointment. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I saw the story. Thank you. It was Victoria. Had to be. Where are you? He typed back. Somewhere safe, can't say where yet. When can I see you? The three dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Soon, I promise. Then nothing. Ethan stared at the phone, willing it to buzz again. It didn't. She okay? Tom asked. I think so. You care about her. It wasn't a question. Ethan didn't answer, but he didn't need to. Tom had known him too long. Just be careful, Tom said quietly. I know you want to help her, but make sure you're not losing yourself in the process. Ethan looked at his friend. Maybe I need to lose myself a little. Maybe I've been holding on too tight to who I was, and that's why I can't figure out who I'm supposed to be now. Tom didn't have an answer for that. He just clapped Ethan on the shoulder, finished his coffee, and headed home. Ethan sat alone in the quiet farmhouse, listening to the old wood settle, the wind moving through the trees outside. Everything felt suspended, like the world was holding its breath, waiting to see what happened next. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was a news alert. The FBI had issued a warrant for Gregory Ashford's arrest. Ethan read it twice to make sure it was real. Then he set the phone down and closed his eyes. They'd done it. Against impossible odds, they'd actually done it. But the fight wasn't over. Not yet. The warrant for Ashford's arrest made headlines, but the man himself disappeared. For 3 days, federal agents searched his properties, froze his accounts, questioned his associates. But Gregory Ashford was gone, vanished like smoke, and Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Men like Ashford didn't go down easy. They fought back. And when they did, people got hurt. Victoria was still in hiding. She texted him twice a day, short messages that said she was safe but gave no details about where. Ethan understood. Trust was a luxury neither of them could afford yet, not with Ashford still out there somewhere, watching. The town's attitude toward him had shifted. Some people still crossed the street when they saw him coming, but others stopped to shake his hand. Tell him he'd done the right thing. The hardware store owner brought over a casserole. The woman who ran the library dropped off books for Emma. Small gestures that said, "We see you, we were wrong." Tom came by most evenings, helped with chores around the farm, stayed for dinner. He didn't ask about Victoria, and Ethan was grateful for that. Some things were too complicated to explain. On the fourth day, Sarah Reeves called. They found him, she said. Ethan's grip tightened on the phone. Where? Private airport outside the state, trying to board a plane to the Caymans. She sounded almost gleeful. Federal agents arrested him an hour ago. It's going to be all over the news tonight. What about the charges? Fraud, conspiracy, bribery, witness tampering. They're throwing everything at him. His lawyers are already trying to negotiate a plea, but the prosecutor's not playing. They want this to go to trial. Ethan sat down heavily. So it's really over. The criminal case is just beginning, but yeah, Ashford's done. His company's in free fall. Investors are bailing. The board voted him out this morning. Everything he built is collapsing. And Victoria? The charges against her were formally dropped an hour ago. She's free. Something tight in Ethan's chest finally loosened. Does she know? I called her right before I called you. She's on her way back. After Sarah hung up, Ethan sat on the porch steps, watching the sun sink toward the horizon. Emma came out, climbed into his lap. You look happy, she said. I am. Because of Victoria? He smiled. Yeah, because of Victoria. Is she coming home? Home. The word caught him off guard. When had this become her home too? I think so, he said. Emma rested her head against his shoulder. Good. I missed her. Me too, baby girl. Me too. Victoria arrived the next morning, pulling up in a rental car that looked nothing like the expensive vehicles she used to drive. She got out slowly, like she wasn't sure of her welcome, and stood by the gate the same way she had that first night, uncertain, hopeful, scared. Ethan walked down to meet her. For a moment they just looked at each other, all the words they hadn't said hanging in the air between them. Hi, she said finally. Hi. I heard about Ashford. Yeah, it's over. Is it? She looked past him at the farmhouse. Because I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for someone to tell me this was all a mistake and I'm still guilty. You were never guilty. I know. But knowing it and believing it are different things. She wrapped her arms around herself. I don't know how to do this, Ethan. How to just be free again. One day at a time. Same as everything else. She laughed, but it was shaky. That simple? Nothing simple. But it's a start. Emma appeared on the porch, saw Victoria, and came running. Victoria dropped to her knees and caught her, holding on like Emma was the only real thing in the world. You came back, Emma said. I promised I would. Are you staying? Victoria looked up at Ethan over Emma's head. The question in her eyes was the same one Emma had asked, but it meant something different. I don't know yet, Victoria said honestly. Is that okay? Emma thought about it. I guess, but I hope you do. Me too. They spent the day together, the three of them, doing nothing important. Victoria helped Emma build a fort in the living room. Ethan made lunch, sandwiches that were slightly burnt but edible. They played cards at the kitchen table, and Emma won every hand because neither of the adults was paying attention to the game, just stealing glances at each other when they thought the other wasn't looking. It felt normal, almost too normal, like they were pretending it's something they hadn't earned yet. That evening, after Emma went to bed, Ethan and Victoria sat on the porch with coffee. The night was cool, stars scattered across the sky like someone had spilled salt. I got a call from my old board of directors, Victoria said. They want me back. Full reinstatement, control of the company, everything. That's good, isn't it? I don't know. She stared into her mug. A month ago, that company was my entire life. I fought for it, built it from nothing. But now, she trailed off. Now? Now I'm not sure I want it back. Not the way it was. She looked at him. Being here with you and Emma, it's the first time in years I felt like a person instead of a position. You can be both. Can I? Because it feels like I have to choose. She set her mug down. If I go back, it's 12-hour days, board meetings, investors, all of it. I won't have time for this. She gestured at the farm, at him. And I don't want to lose this. Ethan's heart was beating too fast. What is this? I don't know, but I know it matters. She moved closer. You matter. He could have kissed her then, could have closed the distance and let everything else fall away. But he didn't, because she was right. They needed to figure out what this was before they made it something more complicated. You don't have to decide tonight, he said quietly. Take your time. Figure out what you want. What if what I want is impossible? Then we make it possible. She smiled, but it was sad. You make it sound easy. It won't be, but that doesn't mean it's not worth trying. Over the next few weeks, Victoria split her time between the farm and the city. She met with her lawyers, dealt with the fallout from Ashford's arrest, started the slow process of rebuilding her reputation. The company wanted her back, but she was stalling, weighing her options. Ethan watched her struggle with it, saw the exhaustion in her eyes when she came back from meetings, the way she seemed lighter when she was here, away from all of it. One evening, she came back looking different, determined. I made a decision, she said. They were in the kitchen. Emma was at a friend's house for a sleepover, just the two of them. About the company? About everything. She sat down at the table. I'm not going back. Not the way they want me to. What are you going to do? Start something new, smaller, something I actually care about instead of just something that makes money. She looked at him. And I want to do it from here. Ethan's breath caught. Here? If you'll have me. I know it's complicated. I know you have Emma to think about, and this life you've built, and I'm basically asking to turn it all upside down. Victoria. She stopped. Yes, he said simply. Yes? Stay. Build your company here. Turn my life upside down. I don't care. He reached across the table, took her hand. Just don't leave. Her eyes filled with tears. You mean that? I wouldn't say it if I didn't. She stood, came around the table, and kissed him. It wasn't careful or tentative. It was everything they'd been holding back for weeks. All the fear and hope and desperation poured into one moment. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Victoria laughed. What? Ethan asked. I just realized. I have no idea how to run a company from a farm. You'll figure it out. Will I? You broke into a diner and stole evidence from a billionaire. I think you can handle some logistics. She laughed again, and this time it was real. Free. The trial took 6 months. Ashford fought every charge, hired the best lawyers money could buy, tried to paint himself as the victim of a conspiracy. But the evidence was overwhelming. The security footage, Brennan's testimony, the financial records Sarah's investigation had uncovered, it all pointed to the same conclusion. Gregory Ashford had systematically destroyed Victoria Hale to steal her company, and he'd done it to others before her, a pattern of fraud and manipulation going back years. The jury deliberated for 3 days. When they came back, the verdict was unanimous, guilty on all counts. Ethan and Victoria watched the news coverage together, Emma between them on the couch. The anchor reported that Ashford was facing 30 years in federal prison. His assets were being seized. His empire was gone. It's really over, Victoria said quietly. Yeah, Ethan said. It is. Emma looked up at them. Does this mean we can stop watching boring news now? They both laughed. Ethan ruffled her hair. Yes, sweetheart, we can stop watching boring news. But later that night, after Emma was asleep, Victoria stood at the window, staring out at the dark fields. You okay? Ethan asked. I thought I'd feel different, like vindicated or something. She turned to face him. But mostly I just feel tired. That's normal. Is it? You've been fighting for months. Your body doesn't know how to stop yet. He moved to stand beside her. Give it time. I'm not good at waiting. I noticed. She leaned against him, and he wrapped his arm around her shoulders. They stood like that for a while, watching the moon rise over the trees. Thank you, she said finally. For what? For letting me in. For believing me when no one else would. For fighting when I couldn't. Her voice cracked. For giving me a reason to keep going. You gave me one too, he said. I was barely living before you showed up, just going through the motions, taking care of Emma, waiting for, I don't know what, something to change. And then you knocked on my door and everything did change. For the better? He thought about it, about the fear and the chaos and the near constant danger they'd faced, about the nights he'd lain awake, wondering if he was doing the right thing, if he was putting Emma at risk, if any of it would matter in the end. Then he thought about Victoria reading to Emma, about her laugh when she'd successfully made coffee in his broken machine, about the way she looked at him like he was someone worth believing in. Yeah, he said, for the better. 6 months after the trial ended, Victoria's new company launched. She'd partnered with 3 other women who'd been victims of corporate fraud, creating a consulting firm that helped small businesses protect themselves from predatory practices. It wasn't as flashy as her old company, didn't make as much money, but she came home every day looking satisfied instead of exhausted. She'd moved into the farmhouse officially 3 months ago. They'd converted the upstairs office into her workspace, installed high-speed internet, turned the guest room into something that actually belonged to her instead of just a place she stayed. Emma had adjusted faster than either of them expected. She called Victoria by her first name, not Mom. They'd agreed that was important, that Rachel would always be Emma's mother and nothing would change that. But Victoria was family now, a different kind of family, built on choice instead of blood. One Saturday morning, Ethan woke to find Victoria's side of the bed empty. He went downstairs and found her in the kitchen with Emma, both of them covered in flour, attempting pancakes. "We're making breakfast," Emma announced. "I can see that. Victoria's not very good at it yet." "Hey," Victoria protested, but she was smiling. "I'm learning." Ethan watched them work together. Emma patiently explaining how to flip a pancake without making a mess, Victoria concentrating like it was a business negotiation. Something warm settled in his chest, something he hadn't felt since before Rachel got sick. Peace. Not the absence of pain or struggle, just the quiet knowledge that he was where he was supposed to be, with people who mattered. After breakfast, burnt pancakes that they ate anyway, Victoria pulled him aside. "I have something to tell you," she said. His stomach clenched. "Good something or bad something?" "Good, I think." She took a breath. "I got a call yesterday from the governor's office. They want me to testify before the state legislature about corporate accountability reform." "That's great. It means going public, really public. Interviews, press conferences, all of it." She looked uncertain. "I know we've been keeping things quiet, trying to have a normal life. If I do this, that goes away. People will be watching, judging." "Let them watch. It'll affect you too. And Emma. Emma's tougher than you think, and so am I." He took her hands. "If this is what you want to do it. Don't hold back because you're worried about us." "You're sure?" "I'm sure." She kissed him, and he could feel her smiling against his mouth. The testimony happened 2 months later. Ethan and Emma watched it on TV, Victoria poised and confident in a way that reminded him of that first night, polished and powerful, but with something new underneath. Vulnerability. Honesty. She talked about what Ashford had done to her, about the fear and the shame and the feeling of losing everything. But she also talked about what came after, about the people who'd helped her, about learning that strength wasn't about never falling down, but about getting back up. She didn't mention Ethan by name, but when the camera zoomed in on her face, he saw her glance toward something off-screen, toward where he and Emma were sitting in the audience. The legislation passed 3 months later. New protections for whistleblowers, stricter oversight for corporate fraud. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. A step forward. That night, they celebrated with cheap wine and takeout Chinese food. Emma fell asleep on the couch halfway through a movie, and Ethan carried her upstairs. When he came back down, Victoria was on the porch, looking out at the fields. "Penny for your thoughts," he said. "Just thinking about how different everything is now." She glanced at him. "A year ago, I was running a multi-million-dollar company, living in a penthouse, eating at restaurants I can't even pronounce the names of, and I was miserable. And now? Now I live on a farm in the middle of nowhere. My biggest accomplishment today was making pancakes that were only slightly burnt, and I've never been happier." She shook her head. "How does that make sense?" "Maybe it doesn't have to make sense." "That's a very unsatisfying answer." "You want satisfying? Okay." He sat down beside her. "You were successful before, but you were alone. Now you're not. That's it? That's the big revelation?" Sometimes the simple answer is the right one. She was quiet for a moment, then, "I used to think needing people was weakness. That if I could just be strong enough, smart enough, I wouldn't need anyone. And then Ashford happened, and I lost everything, and I realized being alone isn't strength, it's just lonely. You're not alone anymore." "No." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I'm not. They sat like that until the stars came out, the night settling around them like a blanket. Inside, the farmhouse was warm and quiet. Emma safe in her bed. The life they'd built together humming along like it had always been this way. It hadn't been easy getting here. There had been moments Ethan thought they wouldn't make it, that the weight of everything they were carrying would crush them. But they'd held on, they'd fought, and somehow, impossibly, they'd won. Not because they were perfect. They weren't. Victoria still had nightmares about the trial sometimes, woke up thinking she was back in that police station being accused of crimes she didn't commit. Ethan still struggled with guilt over Rachel, wondered if moving forward meant leaving her behind. Emma still asked questions about her mom that neither of them knew how to answer. But they were here, together, building something real out of the wreckage of everything that had broken them. A year and a half after Victoria first knocked on his door, Ethan proposed. Not with a fancy ring or an elaborate plan. He didn't have the money for fancy, and elaborate had never been his style. He asked her one morning over coffee, Emma sitting at the table drawing, the sun coming through the windows in long golden bars. "Marry me," he said. Victoria looked up from her laptop where she'd been reviewing a contract. "What?" "Marry me. Make this official." Emma's head popped up. "Are you asking Victoria to marry you?" "Yeah, I am." "Can I be the flower girl?" "We haven't said yes yet," Victoria said, but she was smiling. "So, say yes," Emma said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Victoria looked at Ethan, at Emma, at the farmhouse around them that had become home. She thought about everything they'd been through, everything they'd survived, about the nights she'd spent running, terrified and alone, about the moment Ethan had opened his door and let her in. "Yes," she said. The wedding was small, just family and close friends in the backyard of the farm, wildflowers everywhere, Emma's idea. Tom was Ethan's best man. Sarah came, brought her partner, took enough photos to fill an entire article she promised not to publish. A few of Victoria's old colleagues showed up, the ones who'd stuck by her even when things got bad. They said their vows under the oak tree where Ethan used to sit with Rachel, and if that felt strange or sad, neither of them mentioned it. Because this wasn't about replacing what had been lost. It was about building something new alongside it. When the officiant pronounced them married, Emma cheered louder than anyone, and Ethan laughed and Victoria cried, and the whole thing was messy and imperfect and exactly right. At the reception, really just a barbecue with music, Tom pulled Ethan aside. "You doing okay?" he asked. "Yeah, why?" "Because a year and a half ago, you were barely holding it together. And now you're married to a woman you met because she showed up at your door in the middle of the night being chased by a billionaire." Ethan laughed. "When you put it that way, it sounds insane." "It is insane, but it's also the most alive I've seen you since Rachel died." Tom clapped him on the shoulder. "I'm happy for you, man. Really. Thanks. Just promise me one thing." "What's that?" "No more breaking into diners. My heart can't take it." Ethan grinned. "I'll do my best." He found Victoria dancing with Emma to some pop song he didn't recognize. They were both laughing, completely unself-conscious, and something in his chest pulled tight. This was it. This was what he'd been looking for without knowing it. Not perfection, not some fairy tale ending where everything worked out exactly right. Just this. Real people, real love, real life with all its complications and joys tangled up together. Victoria caught his eye, held out her hand. He took it, let her pull him into the dance, even though he had no idea what he was doing. Emma grabbed his other hand, and they spun in a circle, the three of them, while the music played and the sun set over the farm and everyone they cared about watched and smiled. Later, after the guests had gone and Emma was asleep upstairs, Ethan and Victoria sat on the porch steps, exhausted and happy. "We did it," Victoria said. "We did. I mean, really did it. All of it. The trial, the company, the wedding, everything." "Yeah, we did." She rested her head on his shoulder. "I keep waiting for something to go wrong." "Nothing's going to go wrong." "You don't know that." "No, but I know that whatever happens, we'll handle it, together." He kissed the top of her head. "That's all we can do." She was quiet for a moment, then, "Do you ever think about how different things would be if I hadn't shown up that night?" "All the time." "And?" "And I'm glad you did. Even with everything we went through, I'm glad." "Me too." They sat there until the stars came out. the same way they had 100 times before. But tonight felt different, final, somehow, like they'd crossed some invisible line from surviving to living. Inside, the farmhouse was quiet, Emma's breathing steady from her room upstairs, the old wood settling in its familiar way, everything in its place. Ethan thought about the man he'd been 18 months ago, hollow, going through the motions, existing but not really alive. He thought about Victoria, desperate and broken, with nowhere left to turn, two people who'd lost everything, finding each other in the wreckage. It shouldn't have worked. By all rights, it should have ended in disaster. But somehow, through stubbornness and luck, and something that felt like fate, even though Ethan didn't believe in that, they'd made it, not unscathed. They both carried scars, but together. "Hey," Victoria said softly. "Yeah? Thank you for saying yes that first night." "Thank you for asking." She lifted her head, kissed him, and in that moment, with the stars overhead and the life they'd built surrounding them, everything else fell away. The fear, the doubt, the what-ifs. All that mattered was this, here, now. They'd fought for it, bled for it, almost lost it a dozen times, but they'd won. And that, Ethan thought, was enough.